Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Let Sleeping Gods live event, in which the Eldrith Minion is added to the game. One other thing that happened last week that's pretty big that I want to go over before getting into everything this week is, of course, is the roadmap for the next year. This is the first time they've ever posted a roadmap like this, and while I did go over on stream, I did want to go over it on this video as well. So let's briefly go over that before getting into all the weekly stuff. So the only one we really know like definitive info on, or at least some amount, is the 6.3 update, the one that's coming supposedly next month. Of course, times are subject to change, though these are approximate times as to when they will come out. But anyways, we have the update called the Depths Below. As far as what this update ends up doing, it's going to be a pretty big underworld rework. We're likely going to actually have a purpose for chaos shards again, so it is highly advised to go and get more of them if you happen to not have a gigantic surplus of them by doing the daily underworld. Aside from that, yeah, we're probably getting more troops, maybe more weapons, basically just some revamping to the entirety of the underworld. Maybe level 500 factions will finally be viable, unlike currently, where it's currently most viable to run level 20 at a 1x multiplier. So hopefully things like that will be adjusted, and it's pretty much primarily going to be going over the underworld as far as all the updates are concerned. The rest of these are pretty much speculation, but 6.4 update Legends Reborn, I'm hoping is a endgame arena kind of thing, or at least a revamp to all the legends, one or the other. So one thing I've always wanted for this game for quite some time is an arena that was more towards endgame. Of course, the current state of arena is basically what the game was upwards of like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, pretty much 7 years ago, gosh. But basically when the game launched is basically the current state of arena, just with a lot more mechanics, because of course there's a lot more troops compared to like the 100 something that there initially was. However, it's pretty dated, and definitely not one of the better events. I know we've pulled it on streams before, and like more than half the people who ended up voting said that they don't actually end up even doing arena these days. Of course, there's a daily arena system that most people skip on and stuff like that, so hopefully this will be some kind of arena that is actually good. That's what I'm hoping for that. Other than that, we're getting a new kingdom. We haven't had one for, gosh, since November. So it has been not the longest amount of time. Of course, we went like a little over 2 years without one. However, this will be like a 6 to 7 month period since the previous kingdom. And it's going to be Hellcrag, which definitely sounds like an orc-like kingdom. Probably like an orc daemon, if I had to guess. So we'll be getting a new kingdom, all new troops, probably some kind of new mechanic with it. Though it might use some old mechanics like Enrage, which seems kind of likely for that place. Next, we have ourselves the Dragon's Path for the 6.5 update. Not the slightest clue what that could possibly be, but dragons normally have loot, so hopefully it's a lot of loot. Then we're getting a Broken Spire rework in September, which is kind of interesting. That is the first kingdom within the game, so hopefully they don't over-revamp it, otherwise it might be annoying for newer players. However, a good majority of the newer troops from Broken Spire don't even show up in the questline there, so hopefully it'll be fine. Plus, they could always rebalance something else with early game to make sure that nothing's too powerful. However, that's pretty nice because Broken Spire is notoriously bad because it's the first kingdom in the game. Some things are deliberately ultra underpowered there, and that's somewhat, I guess, by design, because this is the first kingdom you ever introduced to when you first start up the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebalance it without making it too hard for newer players, but also making the Broken Spire troops, you know, actually useful, as a good majority of them are not. Then we're going to be getting a Halloween update. Then we're going to be getting the anniversary, because of course November's the anniversary month, and then we're going to be getting some holiday stuff. So it looks like the last really major update might actually, oddly enough, be the August one, as everything else just seems to be a little bit here and there going on throughout the rest of the year. But we have these three major ones basically to look forward to this year as far as you know, major content updates that will actually be doing something huge. So that's what we have going on for next year. Anyways, at least the rest of this year. Anyways, let's go over all the normal stuff that we normally go over, starting with the Eldrith Minion. There's also a new troop in the event key drop table that we'll be doing a team for during this video, and as per usual, all the teams we'll be showing will be in the description below. So, the Eldrith Minion. This is a, you can end up getting the Arcanes for 200 glory each, so really good to stock up if you need the blue-red. This is actually a pretty good troop, most notably because it's Empower, so pretty much every Empower is useful. This is a Converter Empower, like we needed more of those, but it converts all browns to purples, and if an enemy is cursed, it will gain half its mana back. So this is interesting because a lot of the time it's going to do nothing. However, if you do have a curse in play, it's basically an Empower troop that then becomes a fast troop that only needs to get half its mana back, meaning in a perfect situation, you're going to have Empower into only needing 6 mana per cast, which is really good. Even though it doesn't have any side effect, it's going to be really good at being able to cast again, which is something that a lot of the empowers tend to struggle with, in that you tend to place them in a way that you only cast them once in many situations, whereas this thing is very realistic. You'll be able to get a double cast off of it. One thing that synergizes pretty well too is it ends up inflicting curse when it does skull damage, and a lot of empowers tend to be used in first slot, mostly because you could resummon into it, so you can kind of use it as a meat shield, use it for its value from its empower, and then kind of have it die out. And this one is still going to be used pretty similarly, and even has a curse to go with it to synergize with his other abilities, so he might even be able to get 2 casts, whereas the average empower would normally do 1 cast while in first slot. This might actually be able to pull off 2. So overall, not that bad. Definitely going to be useful for any purple heavy team, and might find its way into brown Guild War counters. However, there are quite a few good brown purples that have overlap there that might be able to survive on brown day. However, it will probably still find its way into some kind of ridiculously ultra annoying team. We'll have to find out next Guild War. But that's definitely something we'll need to experiment around with more this week, as I only have 1 team made up for now, but I might need to cover a video on just him specifically a little bit later this week, as he's a pretty relevant troop, as pretty much any Empower Converter is. Just need to figure out what the teams are. So, aside from that, we do have another new troop called the Uvasaka. Might as well go show him from the team that we have here, just to kind of do our initial testing. And as far as what he does, he's a little underpowered, but might still find his way into some teams. Plus, he has 20% stats this week, if nothing else. I believe it's a bonus to both Duergaroth and Daemons, which is almost the entirety of the kingdom. So that's pretty nice. Anyways, as far as the troop itself, ends up converting all purple gems to doomskull. So there's a few things that have this mechanic, most notably being Mirage Queen, due to its 4x curse, its overall really good typing, its 50% mana start to elementals. However, it does more than that. If there's an Eldrith Minion, which is the other troop we just went over, the one that converts to purple, if there's an Eldrith Minion on the team, ends up creating 3 additional doomskulls. So it kind of reminds me of the Doom weapons that way, where it does like the convert of a color and then creates some extra ones, but instead of it being based on a Doom on the enemy team, it's based on having Eldrith Minion on your ally team. So that's kind of nice, and it ends up summoning an Eldrith Minion. So even if you don't have one, you'll be able to get it, and you can also kind of have an Eldrith Minion in first slot, get a replacement of it, and then boom, you have a backup tank on the slot that you just had. One other thing that's pretty nice about it is as Impervious. Same thing with Impervious, always upside. And lastly, its trait is pretty inconsistent. I feel like in most situations I'd rather have an Obsidious. However, he has no color correlation with Obsidious, so there might be some teams that need a different color setup that might want to run this instead. Basically, there's a independent 25% chance to inflict curse or death mark on a random enemy when matching 4 or more gems. So it's really, really interesting that it's independent. Because if I'm not mistaken, he can end up doing one or the other, or both, which is going to be a little inconsistent, because if you're trying to do this to counter a, let's say, an Impervious troop, you won't be able, if you hit Death Mark on it but not the Curse, you'll end up doing nothing. And the inverse can happen when you want to Death Mark something that doesn't have immunity, and then it just ends up doing Curse, and you're not really getting much value. However, if it does roll both, that's pretty nice, and it also makes sure that it's generally going to roll one or the other, if nothing else. The biggest issue with it is its really high lack of consistency. There's so many other troops that could do Curse or Death Mark better, or even both simultaneously better, to the point where unless you really need this guy for his offensive casting ability, you're pretty much not putting him on your team. Like, you're not going to be putting him on your team for his final trait. There are just better final traits out there for either Curse and or Death Mark, and you're not going to be using this as your mechanic to do so. You'll be using him more so for his ability in a Skull Spam team, and this will kind of be extra. Kind of like how Lord of Slaughter is pretty much never used for its double Death Mark. It's used for its Doomskull Convert. This is basically the exact same thing. It's going to, well, maybe not, the other one's way better, but the exact same premise, as in it has Death Mark, but you're using it for its Doomskull Spam. That's pretty much the whole purpose of this troop, not its final trait. But overall, its traits aren't bad, if nothing else, so... but it's more so focused on its ability. Anyways, you can get that from Event Key Drop Table. Some things to also mention from the Event Key Drop Table is all the things here. As far as what's not in it, and is very noteworthy, let me do it by base rarity, is a Zugoff is not in the drop table. Anything that is always in Soulforge is never in the drop table, and Zugoff is one of those. You cannot get it. You have to get it from the Soulforge crafting. The only mythic that is in the drop table is Vashtagan, so do not open event keys thinking you can get a Zugoff, as you will not be able to get a Zugoff. You'll just keep getting Vashtagans instead. Aside from that, this event key drop table is pretty underwhelming. You can't get any of the Duergaroth troops, obviously, as well. So those 5, actually there's a 6 as well. You can't get Mizmer. So those 6 you can't get. So Mizmer, Zugoff, and the 4 faction troops, of course, are all not obtainable. Everything else here is, though. Duergaroth's a pretty underwhelming kingdom. Another one that kind of needs that Broken Spire rework that they were talking about. But yeah, it's a pretty average kingdom, pretty average hero class. Obviously, it's used primarily for Zugoff. There's a few mana accumulators here and there that are good. This thing has like a weird barrier thing that's like so situational, but you know, it's not horrible. Wall of Tentacles has its premise that can kind of do from time to time with its mana accumulation, but nothing here is like a must-have. If you're opening event keys here, you're pretty much just doing it because Duergaroth is a magic kingdom, and getting it to 10-star or 20-star will end up giving you a whole additional magic bonus. So if you're opening event keys this week, it is pretty much solely for the purpose of gaining additional magic and upgrading the kingdom, rather than the troops that actually exist there, as it's a pretty underwhelming kingdom as far as its troop selection. While there are a few utility troops here and there, it's for the most part a very skippable kingdom, unless you're really looking for something to get Duergaroth to a higher star level, as it does count as magic. Anyways, next thing is the ward event. So as far as the ward event, pretty straightforward, just do rarity order. What's pretty nice is we even have extra skull damage and spell damage. As far as the restriction, we're restricted to mystics that are purple. You can end up going with some skull spam and powers, which are kind of nice. We have skull spam and power access. We have various AoE options that you can end up using. Most notably, we could just end up running with like an AoE weapon and just kind of taking it out that way, though do keep in mind it has to be specifically a purple AoE weapon. But aside from that, we have quite a few mana accumulators here that we can end up using. And overall, you're pretty much just going to want to go for an AoE burst or a skull burst. You can go down either route. You can kind of combine them as well. This one kind of goes with a combination route where we're going for skulls, but also have the capability of doing Black Manacle. Finessa and pretty much any of the empowers are going to be pretty solid here, so kind of just building your team around any of these will be one of your best bets. I'm pretty sure you could even get away with like triple or quad Finessa if you really wanted to cheese it, if you don't have that many options but have Finessa laying around. So there's quite a few ways that you could end up getting the win. But yeah, either cast them down with AoE or kill them out with empowers. Either or a combination of both. Should be a pretty straightforward event, as having both skull damage and magic damage allows you to do basically any strategy you want in order to complete out the event, which is pretty convenient. Anyways, as far as other things that we have going on this week, this Tuesday we have the Duergaroth faction, which of course is the faction for the kingdom. Nothing really too noteworthy there, it's a pretty average kingdom. Wednesday we have Pudding, which is a brown mastery. Thursday we have Sorcerer hero class, which once again, pretty underwhelming hero class. Biggest issue with Sorcerer is it's a cast-based hero class that is outclassed by other cast-based hero classes, which is kind of weird because it's kind of set up to be like the best caster out of any hero class, yet is outclassed by like half the classes in the game for casting, as well as more than half if you count in other parameters. So it's a pretty underwhelming class. Most notably, Archmagus is its main contender. That just makes it useless because Archmagus is just like 10 times better than Sorcerer class, so very situational class that is barely ever used. However, that likely means you might not have it max, so you'll be able to get some XP for that day if nothing else. And aside from that, as you can already see from the timer, we have Bounty Hunter this Friday, and we'll be getting a new bounty troop. It's a pretty underwhelming bounty troop. It's not going to be used in the meta of Bounty Hunter, and by meta I mean Tagraki build, nor will it be usable in a future Skull build if that ever finally becomes meta. So overall, nothing really too special there. Just another troop coming in, but if nothing else, will be for kingdom upgrades. As far as troops and weapons, we do have a few okay options this week. The most noteworthy thing, if you're going to be crafting something in Soulforge, is either going to be Wild Queen or Kerch's the Bull. Wild Queen is a really, really good, though risky, Guild War option. So if you want like a high risk, high reward Guild War option, when she works, she gets you like 9,600 pretty much every time. When she doesn't work, you get a loss. So it's a little bit risky. Because if you miss with her ability, or if they have freeze and you get overfrozen, don't have cleanse, you can get in some pretty sticky situations. But it has a lot of damage, ends up stealing some attack, gives it to your first slot, which converts something that the enemy needs and gives it to yourself, which is pretty convenient while creating skulls, because the enemy skulls will do less damage while yours will do more, which is extremely convenient. It has green mana, which accumulates back into itself, and has skulls, which obliterates everything with its attack gain. So overall, a really solid option. Even has a Bone Storm when an ally dies. This can sometimes bite you though, because if the enemy is already like ramping up and starting to destroy you, they might get extra value from it. However, if you have a resummon on your team ready to go, and you end up getting a resummon there, and then just have the extra skull spam there, it can end up kind of working out. Ideally, you don't want to try utilizing that, but it is an aspect that makes her even more high risk, high reward, in that you can kind of do a desperation play that makes her do 1 billion damage, but also allows the enemy to do 1 billion damage back to you. So a very risky option that scores super good when it works. Anyways, Kerch's the Bull. Most noteworthy thing about this is he's pretty much the best troop in the game that's boost based on every stat. He boosts based on his magic, which boosts up his magic damage, as well as his, well, basically every stat he has boost how much damage he does. Magic at a 1-to-1, and all his other stats at a 2-to-1. So attack, life, and armor all boost to a 2-to-1, so for every 2 of a stat, he gains 1 additional damage, with magic counting 1-to-1 for additional damage while having a base value of 4. Overall, as far as troops that boost based on all stats, it's pretty much your go-to option. This is pretty situational in the current state of the game, as there are other options that tend to be used instead that just tend to work a little bit better. However, he's still not bad, and if you're doing a really wide boosting team for any kind of game mode, maybe like Underworld or something, he can end up being pretty useful. I do feel like he's fallen off the meta more and more as time goes on, but he's still the best all-round like boost ratio troop. So he has that going for it. He also tends to have a lot of situations where all he has to do is cast once on 2nd slot, cast once on 4th slot, and he just wins out the battle with like 1 extra skull poke, as this does a really substantial amount of damage. He's pretty hard countered by Stealthy Being in 2nd and 4th, so something like a Life and Death Weaver team is like his worst nightmare, because he'll function very weak against that. However, he does have his purpose and is still usable in the current state of game. It's not a must-have mythic, but if you're starting to get to the point where you have a lot of mythics and kind of want to try him out, he's maybe worth considering, though I would say Wild Queen is higher priority if you're going to be getting a decent mythic. Anyways, aside from that, nothing really too good underneath weapons. I believe we have, you know, like a couple of the double mana ones, so if you want to get something like that, that's not too bad. But aside from that, there isn't really anything like that's a must-have, so it's mostly just stuff for kingdom upgrades, or if you want to get like the utility weapons like this, those are pretty much your only options that you really have. It's a pretty skippable week if you're looking for good weapons, so might want to consider it if you're really low on weapon crafting resources, as a very skippable week for that. Anyways, aside from that, let's go over a bunch of teams now. So as far as various teams for everything this week, everything will be in the description as well. So this is a full-blown AoE squad. We're using Asha as our mana accumulator, has a little bit extra purple mana, gets to convert all blue to any color of choice, which realistically will likely be using on either red or purple in most situations on this team. However, you might want to use on anything that gets you an extra turn. Like for example, if we have to do it on brown just to get an extra turn, it might be worth it just to be able to get black manacles up immediately. So we have that, and this will be used for the ward event, and probably the main one I'll be using. We basically just want to rush up Asha, rush up black manacle, get them casted, double Queen Titania, and we basically just won from there. As far as the lower world event, you probably already saw it there. You can basically do all the other empowers that aren't legend or above. So we have like Vanessa, which you could just spam. We have the double empower skulls, which are nice. You can still run Black Manacle, which is a really early, easy to obtain weapon just from getting your hero upgraded into brown and purple mastery. So pretty easy stuff to end up building around. As far as the faction, it is a brown-purple restriction, if I'm not mistaken. So we could just use a mana accumulating first slot that doesn't block Guard's Avatar, and then kind of center around a Guard's Avatar quick kill, which is basically the Rowain when you aren't able to use Rowain. If you don't have this, you can kind of go like a double Gargoyle build or something similar and chip them down that way. But if you do have Guard's Avatar, works out really, really well for those lower level ranges. If you're looking for something for the later battles, you can end up just running straight up into Zugoth. You do have access to purple, so you can end up doing that. You do have access to brown as well, so you can go and incorporate an Iron Gut if you so choose, and go like an Iron Gut Zugoth build and like replace out Hero for Iron Gut and all that normal shenanigans. So you can have quite a bit of flexibility for this faction. As far as pure faction, there's pretty much only one way to really do it. It's either 4 to legend or Golem with 3 to legend, with Golem 3 legend being the safer option, obviously, and the one I would probably advise. He ends up exploding a gem and barriering an ally for every single skull destroyed, and gains a bunch of life. He's a really good, competent tank. Unfortunately, unlike some good options in Underworld, he does not gain both life or, a durability plus attack. He only gains durability. However, he gets a lot of durability because he also barriers your entire team. He's among one of the better options in the entire game for 4 times barriering your team. And if you're earlier on in the game, definitely pick this up. Not only will it help you for the Tuesday faction, but it will also end up helping you just in general because of the amount of power that you end up getting for being able to barrier your team. It's really protective. It even has 50% score reduction, so overall, really solid option in the literal sense, and that it's a really good tank. And it even helps keep your entire team tanky. So next we have the legend here. This is the main thing that you're going to be casting. You could even go 4 if you really want to. This, of course, that's a liability that your first slot might die, so we'll stay for going 1-3. But anyways, he does a bunch of true damage and heavy splash, which means he does 75% to adjacents instead of 50. So it's basically a weak splash that does 25, normal one, like what Ketris does, that does 50%, and then the heavy one that does 75% to adjacents. This is 75%. One other thing to consider about heavy splash in this context is splash damage when the base damage is true damage makes the splash damage also true damage. So unlike Ketris that does physical damage with its 50% spread, this will do a 75% spread to the 2 adjacents while also making it true damage. So if it has something like 100 damage, it will do 75 true damage to the 2 adjacents. So that is pretty good. There's some situations in true damage teams where this can kind of get incorporated. It's a really good trip that I feel like isn't used much in the current state of the game. It also gets to explode all stone blocks and then create 3 stone blocks, which can help prevent converters from going too crazy. One other thing that's pretty noteworthy about it, though not too much in the context of the faction, but as far as the troop, I would love to see this mechanic more with things that actually matter, like freeze or silence, or things that can actually be like really effective. But this stuns a random enemy when an enemy casts a spell, which means on their turn, if they're looping on you, which is something that doesn't really happen in factions, but you know, it could still happen if you get really unlucky. But basically, if the enemy is looping on you to any degree, even just casting a single time, you will end up stunning the enemy. So realistically, with 3 of them, or even 2 of them, or however you're running it with 4 of them, within a few casts of the enemy, you're going to have the entire enemy team stun. And one thing I would love to see in the future is this for freeze, for silence, for pretty much every mechanic, because this is a great way to counter infinite loop teams that they haven't really utilized much. It's on this troop, but if I'm not mistaken, like a similar mechanic, or at least a similar useful mechanic, isn't really on anything else in the game, and I would really love to see this expanded more. They added this like, well, almost a year ago, and they haven't really expanded on it since, and I really hope they do, because it's a mechanic that has a lot of potential that they haven't really been utilizing. But yeah, he has that mechanic. He'll be more useful in the future, but for now, he's pretty good at taking out that faction, because he's the only thing that can really do so from the troops you have access to. Anyways, as far as Sorcerer hero class, pretty bad hero class, but might as well claim the free XP and free gems. It's basically a Black Manacle team. Rush into Black Manacle, use the new Eldrith thing in order to feed it purple off of Empower. You then cast Black Manacle, and then you win. And just Ancient Horrors are just there for purple link, so you can cast Black Manacle even more. And lastly, let's go use this team, though against that is questionable. I'm not sure if I want to do this fight. We'll still try it, though. So this fight right here is going to be a little annoying. We have brown to purple on a board that cannot function with that. He has blue to yellow, which also does nothing. That's kind of funny that both our abilities will do almost nothing on the current state of this board. Let's see, blue to yellow. Just keep an eye on it, making sure I'm not giving him anything. We have brown to purple, which we can take some mana on. However, I'd rather not in this situation. Let's see. So we do have this other ability, convert all purple to doomskulls, which I want to have Thrall to full mana before I do that. So I do kind of want to take a purple here. He's going to get a little bit of mana here. I can't really help it. I don't believe we could completely stop it. There's a doomskull over there. We could like take a convert, do some kind of weird shenanigan. I kind of just want to take a purple search here though and hope that ends up working out. Even if it didn't, I believe I have enough link right now that would just end up working anyways. He does still have a blue to yellow convert, which right now is an extra turn. So I think I am going to take a risk and try to clear out the board here. We do not have an extra turn on brown to purple. We do not have a extra turn on purple to doomskull. So I'm just going to clear the board and hope we get lucky here. We indeed did get lucky enough. And let's double check that our convert. So we have brown to purple and we have purple to doomskull, neither of which do exactly what we need. So I'm going to go kill something very annoying, which normally you want to put stealthy on your rope dart, otherwise it will get instantly killed by either rope dart or Zugoff or everything that can target. So you normally want to have stealthy on that, so that doesn't happen. Let's see. Gosh, I can't even use these 2 new troops. They don't want to get alignment properly. Okay, he does have alignment here, so I'll go for that. It does enough board clear that you might be able to even get follow-up. So if we get like a purple or something there, or brown, that would have been a follow-up. Unfortunately, we did not. So I might still be able to get something to work here. Not really. I can still go for a convert. Though at this point, I'd rather just go for the full board clear. So it looks like this little minion didn't really get to do much. Hey, he got to do something. Let me go for it. So as you saw right there, he got half his mana back because he's currently cursed. Because we got that cursed death mark thing off of this strip. Off the percent chance. So that's pretty convenient. So now we end up getting the boost ratio there, and we just end up killing that out, and boom, he's dead. So yeah, not too bad. Let's go do one more battle with it. Like, they're both okay. Well, obviously this one's really good, but the Legends is okay, I mean. Like, the Eldrith Minion is really good. Like, this is more so, even though we didn't really use it much in that battle, I feel like it's more so Eldrith Minion, though then again, it's more so Zugoff. Thrall Zugoff. But here we have a really good starting board for our team, so we're going to take that. That gives us a free Thrall on first turn, which is pretty nice, which basically allows us to have our whole team rolling, though not quite actually, so I'm going to have to cast again. Now we're going to have our whole team rolling. So now, ideally, we just go get a purple to doomskull convert and be good to go. Unfortunately, we do not have the setup to do that right now, so I'm going to have to go to insta-kill. Once again, for whatever reason, he does not have stealthy on his hero class, so we'll utilize that. We have purple to doomskull, so we'll go for that. Enough of the board is cleared that we can actually immediately go for this convert. It's not too worth going for. We also haven't been able to land a curse yet, which is unfortunate, though it might be because he had double invulnerable, which is making it kind of hard to use curse because invulnerable has immune to curse. So we can't actually land a curse on it, unfortunately, nor can we insta-kill it. So we're going to move that over, move this over. Oh, actually, I could have... What's that aligned? I could have maybe gone for a Doomskull convert there. We're going to go for this. Hopefully we'll have a Doomskull convert, and he's pretty much just dead. And there we go. And we even had got an extra turn there. But overall, yeah, neither of them are that bad. Obviously, I do feel like overall the Empower is going to be a better option. But they're both definitely usable. This guy's definitely going to be a lot more situational due to his luck-based factor. But one way to look at him is he's basically a Doom AoE, or not an AoE, but he's basically like those AoE Doom weapons that convert to Doom Skulls, except he won't be doing AoE damage, but has the caveat of actually be able to consistently do his extra gems. Because one thing about those Doom weapons, I believe they do like 5 additional Doom Skulls, but it's only when there's a Doom on the opposing team. And in player versus player battles, that basically never happens because the Dooms are pretty bad. You only really see it in Tower of Doom. So it's like it doesn't even have an extra creation, whereas this thing generally will be getting its 3 extra, because as long as you got a few extra turns, you probably landed a curse. You'll likely have something else on your team, like an Eldrith or something else when you're using him in order to have a curse onto your opposing team. So you're likely going to have the capability to, or sorry, never mind, it's basically based on the Eldrith Minion. You're based on curse, but still, it would still be helpful to have the curse. But just simply having the Eldrith Minion there actually makes it consistent to have the extra 3, which is basically like the Doom weapon, just with higher consistency, as far as the Doom Skulls created. So not bad. If anything else, that makes that one yellow to purple one, or the purple to Doom Skull one, a little bit less relevant. So the yellow Doom weapon that converts all purple to Doom Skull is slightly less relevant now. It'll still be used, obviously. However, now there's basically a troop that does that for you for 2 lower mana costs while using 2 different colors. So if you look at it that way, it's not too bad. It's just lacking the AoE, but gains the benefit of having extra Doom Skulls, which is generally the more useful aspect in most situations anyways. So, yeah, he's not bad. And he's definitely usable. Though I definitely feel like the Eldrith Minion, while this might not have been like the best of showcases for him, as with pretty much every Empower in existence, this is good. Like, he'll find his way into some kind of ultra broken team. I'm pretty sure some people already found out something. I'll be messing around with it on stream. Of course, we stream every single night here on the channel, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be messing around with him here and there, and if we can find enough good teams, we might even cover a whole video just on him, because as with double empowers out there, as you guys probably seen if you've played pretty much any Guild War, double empower is very prevalent, and having another option to synergize with that is obviously very broken. So we'll see exactly the full range of what that can do. Obviously, that was a single empower team, not a double empower, and I'm pretty sure he's even more broken if you do it into a double empower on a Guild War day. So look forward to that next Guild War. Which is in, what, like a few weeks from now. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. All of the teams I just went over are in the description, so if you want to go copy and paste any of those, feel free to do so. I'll catch all of you guys later. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Greatly appreciated. And goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday if you celebrated last weekend. Goodbye, everyone.